about this city and wants to see it thrive, and I think she's done a great job. So please help me in welcoming our mayor.
First, let me just say thank you, and let's give those students another round of applause. That is just so awesome. We are so proud of the work that you're doing locally, but also proud of the work that you are doing nationally. And I hope you heard what was asked of us. Let's give our young people a chance. You know, these are young people who are prepared to serve, to focus, to lift up our communities, to be engaged. And whenever young people offer themselves up, we ought to be prepared to open the doors and let them in. Because things don't change by allowing those of us who are in the fields to continue to do the work without the support and without leading young people into the future. That's how change takes place. You know, we can't always do this work by ourselves. It's how we lift each other up and push each other forward. I'm so grateful for not just the young people who are sitting here, but the number of young people in our city who are constantly asking for opportunities to engage. And I just want to share a few things with you all. I mean, we are engaged at every level in the city of Baltimore. We have a wonderful, wonderful, and I think most of you all know our Director of Health in the city of Baltimore, our Commissioner, Dr. Wande. She is not just locally known, she's nationally known. She is engaged at every single level, and she makes us proud every day. But what I want you all to recognize is how important our collective efforts and our collaborative efforts are. I think, Diane, about the portal that we opened up just recently to ask young people if they wanted to work this summer. And in 24 hours, 2,000 young people had registered to work. In 1 week, 5,000. Last year, I put 9,000 young people to work in Baltimore City. Without it even closing, 15,000 young people have applied to go to work this summer, and it's not even over yet. And so we have a responsibility to make sure that every child who wants to work does work. And I just want to share a quick little story with you, because it is about the health of our young people, the health of our adults, the health of our communities. Some of you may or may not have seen a video. I was riding down the street one morning, it was 10 a.m., and I encountered a young man with a squeegee stick in his hand. And I pulled up with my EPU and I rolled down the window and I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm just trying to make a little bit of money." I said, go to school now." And he hurried off in the direction of his school. But what I want you to know is that that evening, on my way home up Pennsylvania Avenue, I tell people I don't take 83. I ride through neighborhoods and communities in our city. And I see the drug-addicted individuals who are standing on our corners. I see the people who are hurting from mental health and physical health that need help in our city. And I feel obligated every single time to do something to bring about the change that they need to see. But that evening, I encountered that same young man at 9:30 at night, sitting on the sidewalk on Pennsylvania Avenue. EPU pulled over, I rolled down the window, I said, "Come here, young man, didn't I just see you this morning?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Why are you here?" He said, "I'm waiting on my mother." I said, "Well, give me your address, I want to take you home." He says, "No, I got to wait for my mother." I said, "Well, give me your school because I need to check on you." The next day, I went by his school and I got there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He had just gotten to school. And I asked him, I said, "What can I do for you?" And he said, "I need a job. Can you get me a job?" I said, "I'll get you a job." And I encountered him again 2 days later on that same corner with his mother, begging in the middle of the street. And so I felt obligated, as you all must feel obligated when you walk past the homeless and the helpless, wondering what can we do. And so I pulled over again and I said to his mother, we need to help this young man as much as we need to help you. What you should know is that she has a drug addiction problem. But what I want you all to know is that we have provided not just a job for him, but they were homeless, and so we're providing services for the entire family. It is what we do for the least of us that will change the outcomes for all of us. Our hospitals have a great obligation to our communities because they sit in the middle of drug addiction. They sit in the middle of homelessness. They sit in the middle of mental health issues in our communities and in our neighborhoods. And so if we're going to change Baltimore for the better, it's how we wrap our arms around all the problems that we face. And I tell folks, when I walk by homelessness, I don't walk by and think that I can't do something about it. I walk by and think about what can I do about it. And so while we lifted 65 people off of the front lawn of City Hall and provided housing for them, what we found out, young women and young men, were that they too were suffering from mental illness, drug addiction, and for so many other reasons found themselves homeless. And I always say, there by the grace of God, it could be any of us. And when I walked by the 40 individuals who held camp in front on Guilford Avenue, we didn't just move those individuals. We walked in and out of those camps and took interviews and surveys and had conversations. And you would be surprised at the things that you learn. Because some of those people actually had jobs. But the shelter system says that when you come in, you got to come in at a certain time and you got to leave by a certain time. So if I have a job, I can't go to work because you've got a curfew, and that presents a problem for me. So as we look to how we change our city, our state, this country, and the world, we have to look at the policies that we are governed by that tells us that this is the best way to operate now. But the reality is that the way we operated 20, 30, 40, and 50 years ago may not necessarily be the way we operate or need to operate today. That requires the changing of policies so that we can bring about the change that our community needs. When we talk about policing and community policing, and nobody knows it better than you do, that it is about how we engage our community in a different way. I had a woman walk up to me just yesterday, and she talked about how would her child feel when he was engaged by a police officer because he had an illness that you could not detect by just looking at him. So how do we address that issue? How do we recognize lead paint poisoned children who have suffered for decades? How do we deal with autistic children who look like anybody's child that can't respond like you would anticipate or expect them to respond? Policies have to be changed in order to address those issues. And so I am so grateful to be here, but I can tell you that every single day I get up, whether I'm out the door at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, or I come back at midnight, I still pinch myself that I get to do this work. Because I do it with thoughtfulness, with a clear vision for what I want to see for Baltimore, but what I want to see for the state, the nation, and this world. That we don't look at people and judge them just by virtue of what we see, but we acknowledge that all of us, within all of us, is the power to bring about the change that we all want to see. So I thank you all for the opportunity to be here with you, but I ask of you one thing: be engaged, don't judge, don't prejudge. Lift our city up, Think about the greatness of what we can be, because there's so much greatness among us. These talented young people who deserve our support. These institutions that have so much to give. A police department that wants to do the right thing by its community, and many who have served for decades with honor. And those that have not, we will root them out. Because we know that goodness is in front of us. Greatness is where we're reaching. And together, we can bring the change that we need to see. God bless you all. It was really great being with the young people over at Hopkins this evening, celebrating and honoring people in the community for their contribution to uplifting the community. We heard from one of our major police officers, Major Russell. But what was more important was the fact that these are young people who want to give back, who are in the medical field, wanting to make a contribution. And my message this evening was lift them up, push them forward, and embrace them. Embrace their talents and use them as we continue to develop young leaders in our community. Great being with them all.